This monster was longer than a bus. It didn't have venom, but it could still kill you in minutes. No sharp teeth. No speed. Just a single squeeze. And everything inside you would shut down. This isn't a movie. And it's not a legend. It once existed. Right here on Earth. A massive predator that ruled ancient swamps. And if you think modern pythons are already terrifying, then you haven't seen what truly sat at the top of the food chain. Because this creature didn't just hunt. It waited. And when it struck, nothing escaped. But the most terrifying part isn't its size. It's not even the way it killed its prey. It's a question that, even now, still doesn't have a clear answer. Why did a creature with almost no natural enemies disappear completely? There's no sign of a massive battle. No evidence of a predator strong enough to take it down. No sudden catastrophe that wiped out the entire species. So what really happened to this ruler? Some scientists believe the answer lies in something we can't see. Not an enemy, but its environment. A slow change. Almost invisible. Yet impossible to reverse. And that very change turned its greatest advantage into a fatal weakness. The bigger and more powerful a creature is, the more vulnerable it becomes when the world changes. But this is only the beginning of the story. Because to understand why it disappeared, you first have to understand just how terrifying it really was. Around 60 million years ago, after the world had just recovered from the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, a new ruler began to emerge. It had no legs, no claws. Yet it became one of the most terrifying creatures on the planet. This was Titanoboa. A massive snake, stretching up to 12 to 15 meters long. Heavier than a car. With a body as thick as a tree trunk. It lived in hot, swampy forests, where temperatures stayed high and the air felt dense. The perfect environment for a cold-blooded creature to grow to enormous size. But what made Titanoboa truly different wasn't just its size. It was how it survived. It didn't need to chase its prey. No speed. No noise. Just hiding beneath murky water. Waiting. In absolute silence. And when the moment came, it struck so fast. Its prey didn't even realize what had happened. Titanoboa wasn't the fastest predator. But it didn't need to be. Because in its world, speed didn't decide survival. Patience was the deadliest weapon. Titanoboa could lie still for hours. Even days. Its massive body blending into the environment. Almost disappearing. Beneath murky water. No one knew it was there. Until it was too late. When prey came close, everything happened in an instant. A fast, precise strike. Leaving no chance to react. Its dozens of meters long body coiled tightly around the prey. Each loop stronger than the last. Not to suffocate, but to stop blood circulation. Within minutes, the prey's body began to shut down. The heart stopped. And everything ended in silence. No roar. No prolonged struggle. Just a cold, and brutal end. With that size and strength, almost no species could resist it. Even other large reptiles were just prey. In the post-dinosaur world, Titanoboa stood at the very top of dominance. But even a ruler like Titanoboa had a weakness. And that weakness didn't come from an enemy. It came from the very world it once dominated. As millions of years passed, Earth began to change. Global temperatures gradually dropped. The hot, swampy forests started to shrink. Titanoboa's ideal environment slowly disappeared. But this change didn't happen overnight. It was gradual, almost unnoticeable, slow enough to avoid panic, but fast enough to break everything. Titanoboa was cold-blooded. Its body depended entirely on environmental temperature. As the world cooled, it became slower. Reflexes declined. Strength weakened. Hunting became harder than ever. Prey that was once easy to catch now had a chance to escape. And for a creature that large, every failure came at a high cost. It needed an enormous amount of energy to sustain its body. Yet finding food became increasingly difficult. A vicious cycle began to form. The weaker it became, the harder it was to hunt. The less it ate, the weaker it grew. Meanwhile, the ecosystem around it was also changing. New species emerged, better adapted to cooler environments. They were smaller, faster, more agile. And they didn't rely on temperature the way Titanoboa did. For the first time, the ruler was being left behind. And then, the collapse began. Not with a violent battle, but with a silence that stretched across thousands of years. Titanoboa could no longer hunt as effectively as before. Every failed attempt was a step closer to death. Its massive body, once an advantage, became a burden. It needed more energy, yet received less than ever. Weaker individuals faded and disappeared. The population declined, generation after generation. No cries for help, no signs of desperation. Just a disappearance. Slow, but inevitable. Some scientists believe climate change was the main cause. Others argue ecosystem shifts were the decisive factor. But whatever the reason, the outcome was the same. A once dominant ruler no longer existed, leaving behind nothing but fossils and unanswered questions. An empire that ended in silence. But here's what truly surprised scientists. Titanoboa's size wasn't random. It was direct evidence of a completely different Earth. A planet that was hotter, more humid, and harsher than today. For a snake to reach that size, temperatures had to be significantly higher. Which means the environment once allowed massive creatures to exist. And not just Titanoboa. There may have been many other, even larger species we've never discovered. And that leads to a terrifying possibility. Titanoboa wasn't the limit of nature. It was just the only one we've found. But what's even more terrifying Is this, what if Titanoboa came back? If Earth were to become hotter again? Could today's environment support a creature like that? Tropical forests like the Amazon could become the perfect hiding place. A massive predator concealed within the modern world. Humans might not even realize it's there until it's too late. But this time, the prey wouldn't just be wildlife. It could be anything that steps into its territory. However, humans today aren't as vulnerable as before. Technology, weapons, and intelligence could change the outcome. So if Titanoboa truly existed, who do you think would be the ultimate ruler? Titanoboa is gone. But its story isn't over. It's not just an extinct species. It's a reminder of nature's true power. A creature that once stood at the top of the food chain can still collapse in the face of environmental change. No enemy. No battle required. Just a shift in the world around it. And everything can disappear. Even now, Earth may be changing in ways we don't fully realize. And somewhere in the future, new species may rise to replace what was lost. The question is, will humans be among those who survive?